Hello out there. And the other day I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine, and it was a conversation that I've had probably about 45,000 times by now, talking about CRKT using 8CR13 MOV steel and if that is ever going to change. And I came to the conclusion, like I always do, that no, it isn't. It is one of those things that is just going to be the way that it is, and we have to, if we have a problem with it, that is, we have to choose to either buy from somewhere else or just get over it. And it got me thinking about some of the other things in the knife community, some other changes that maybe we would like to see as collectors or users or whatever, and things that just aren't going to happen. And so here today are 5 things that are just never going to happen, never going to change with some of the knife companies that we follow. And if I'm ever wrong about these guys, if it goes to show that something changes here, and yeah, one of the things I say today is incorrect, then I'll very happily eat crow. I will very happily eat my words and applaud the transition and the change and the growth that one of these companies has made, or maybe not even applaud it, because some of these changes aren't necessarily things that I need to see myself. But let's just get started with the first one, and we're going to get back right into CRKT here. They're not going away from 8CR, guys. It isn't happening. They have no reason to. Are we going to get some bones dangled with more D2 and more limited editions? Sure. And I like some of those models. As you can see, I have a couple of them right here. But if you don't like 8CR and you don't want a knife with 8CR13 MOV, then you're probably not going to want to buy from them. They are able to, generally speaking, still keep an affordable knife. And one of the ways that they say that they're able to do that is by, using a steel that is mass heat treated and is very affordable. It's able to get us some of the design qualities that we like in other aspects of the knife. That's, again, part of the logic. When it comes to them upgrading with D2 for limited editions, yeah, I guess the D2 is good, in terms of it's good to see something different. But for me, with these two at least, the CEO and the Squid, the appeal in the limited edition or the upgrade was in the other aspects of the knife. And so that's really what I paid for. Honestly, 8CR, you guys know, I don't have a huge problem with it, but it is one of those huge talking points with CRKT, with them sort of having knives that look like they should have nicer materials in the blade as well to match some of the stuff across the rest of the knife. This one's plastic, but there's plenty of examples that would fit too. The next one is going to be probably the biggest one, and the one that I'm most sure of. Spyderco is never going to get it right with the clips. They're just sideways. They're sideways. They're going to be sideways forever, and I really don't understand it. And I'm not a clip guy in terms of I need a really nice clip on my knives. I don't. As you can see with this PM2, it's not the best positioning or the best clip, but it does carry just fine for me. But it's one of those things where I know guys, every time they get a Spyderco, they have to spend another 20, 25 bucks on a Lynch clip or one of the MXG clips. The Astute here actually ended up working really well with the Benchmade Lynch clip that I had. So that's neat. But apart from that, yeah, they just don't seem to have any urge to get the clip area of their execution improved. And it's odd because they seem, with the forums that they have and everything, and sort of like that open door where people like Eric Glesser are so accessible and so involved in product development, it seems like it would be something that would be a no-brainer that they would have improved by now. And I'm just convinced that they don't care. And that's just not something that they're ever going to focus on. And maybe even, I said jokingly once, I was like, maybe they have stock in Lynch Northwest, or maybe they're like a sponsor or an investor in that company or something, because yeah, it just doesn't make any sense that they wouldn't do something themselves to create a better clip on knives that are so good otherwise. And it seems silly that that's the biggest complaint that people have about so many of their knives, is that the clips, either the positioning or the actual clip design itself, just sucks. So I don't think it's ever going to change. Never. I will say never. The next one is about ZT, and it's a pretty simple one. The old ZT is never coming back. It's not happening. That ship has sailed. The overbuilt, like built, overdone, that whole shtick, it's over. Does that mean that we're never going to get ZTs that are tanks anymore? No, we're definitely still going to get them. There are a couple actually recently that have come out that have sort of, even if you didn't like the design, they sort of had the feel of those classic ZTs that got the brand such notoriety. And we'll get knives that are sort of like this, like the 393, that are really strong and well built, even though they might not be these massive beasts. They are still very good knives. But I think ZT has changed. I think ZT has sort of evolved into being the nicer Kershaw, like the higher end brand from Kai as a whole, and that they're not just going to pigeonhole themselves into doing something that's one particular style. They have slip joints now. I think they're going to continue to go in this direction that is going to allow them to have a more versatile offering when they do release new knives. So they're never going to just get back to that big overbuilt stout folder, although they might still release a few here and there, throw some people some bones. But yeah, if you were ever thinking that, man, ZT will get that identity back and maybe this will be the year, nah, it ain't happening. Leading us into the next thing, as we just talked about ZT, well, Kershaw. The big thing with Kershaw that people seem to complain about the most is SpeedSafe. SpeedSafe is never going to go away. There are years, and 2020 is actually a good example of a year where a good number of knives on KVT ball bearings, manual opening knives from Kershaw have come out. Last year was completely different, where almost everything was SpeedSafe. And, in my conversations with Kershaw, my understanding is that it's just a matter of, they do it on a design by design basis, and whatever seems to work for the design is what they do. But on a larger scale, Kershaw has to make money. And people like me are not the people keeping Kershaw in business. Even though I might buy a half dozen of them in a year, it's the people who go to the big box retailers who keep them in business. It's the people who want to buy an inexpensive budget knife for $20, in Kmart or Walmart. That's where they make so much of their money, and those people really seem to like at least, assisted opening knives. Those knives sell. And they're really easy to open. They're user-friendly. And they still have a very distinct cool factor. And even if you just hate SpeedSafe, if you've handled SpeedSafe knives over the past even 5 years, there is a distinct difference in the quality of the SpeedSafe mechanism and how clean they fire versus 5 years ago. And sure, on the USA made knives like the Dividend, you would expect that. Really nice. And with the leak, even though this one is pretty darn old, but I'm talking about the airlock right here, which is a sub $20 knife, and this one came out this year, and it's got a great opening snap. So Kershaw, they're never gonna go away from this. The reason why we're able to get a USA made model coming out every now and then, the reason why they started that sprint run series a few months ago that hopefully they get back to, the reason why maybe ZT gets funded and is able to come out with a few more models is because they're making so much money on stuff like this. So it's never going away. It's just the way that it is. So if you hate SpeedSafe knives, it's sort of going to be a crapshoot for the rest of time with their budget stuff. If the knife that you're interested when it's coming out, is it going to be on SpeedSafe? Is it going to be manual? I mean, you'll have to wait and see, but there's a good chance for all time it'll be on SpeedSafe. All right, and the last one, the fifth one that we're going to talk about today is Benchmade. And this one, I don't know, maybe this could change, but I really don't think so. Benchmade, they're just never going to center their knives. It's just not going to happen. Not with consistency. Fit and finish has always been something that people speak badly about Benchmade with. Their fit and finish historically hasn't been good in the eyes of very many people. What I always say when I hear stuff like this is that, like, people don't make this stuff up. Companies get reputations, for the most part, for a reason. And I have had and seen my fair share of Benchmades with very poor fit and finish. What I can say is that since I got collecting and started this channel, in the past however many years that's been, their work has improved, like considerably. And I haven't had any real issues with a knife in a long time. That said, the centering aspect of that is still pretty inconsistent. And so if we look, like here's an Anthem, that's not centered. This is a really old Colgera, not centered. These are perfect knives otherwise, they're just not centered. The most recent one though is the Mini Presidio 2, which is pretty much perfectly centered. So they get it right sometimes, but what I'm getting at is it just doesn't seem like the centering part is a priority. I think they've put a lot of time into getting the rest of the fit and finish sort of back on track with a lot of the other things that they do and the mechanism and just overall operations. But the centering, no, it just has not been that way. And I've had enough experience with Benchmade myself with very poor centering. Just to sort of, you either come to terms with it or you don't. It's sort of the same thing as the 8CR steel. And I know people have a gripe about it, and it's a legitimate gripe because, you should be able to get a knife that's centered well, and, there's tons of knives for a lot cheaper that are centered better, and I get that. It just doesn't seem when Benchmade made those improvements, or when they got better, which is what I saw, it doesn't seem like that part of it got better either, and it's not something that I expect to ever happen. Will it happen? Maybe, but I doubt it. So it's just something you either gotta deal with or you don't. As long as the knife functions for me at this point and works well otherwise, which most of them are pretty darn spot on. A little bit to the side, as long as it's not rubbing, seems to be pretty okay. So, like I said, you might disagree with that expectation that I have, and maybe I just still really like Benchmade, and I'm not going to hate them for that, and I can't quite be objective there, so, judge me if you will, but that's sort of how I see that. But those are the things, guys, and so my question to you, what do you disagree with? What do you agree with here? I think I'm pretty much spot on with these 5, but what other things that will never change are out there? What other things are companies just going to stick by no matter what and not sort of bend, all right? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about it, and let me know what you think of my decisions here, all right? And any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know. I appreciate you watching. Take care and have a good one.